World War II. A conflict so vast, so brutal, so devastating, that it reshaped the very foundation of the modern world. Between 1939 and 1945, over 60 countries became engulfed in a war that spanned continents and oceans. It was not just a war fought with tanks and bombs, but with propaganda, ideology, fear, and resistance. At its center stood powerful leaders, desperate ideologies, and the common people who suffered the unimaginable. This is the complete story of World War II, from its origins to its bitter end, and the lessons that still echo through history. To understand World War II, we must first return to the aftermath of World War I. In 1918, the guns fell silent across Europe, but peace was elusive. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, humiliated Germany. Territories were taken, reparations imposed. The German people, burdened with economic collapse and national shame, began to search for someone to blame and someone to follow. In Italy, a fascist named Benito Mussolini rose to power, preaching nationalism and empire. In Japan, military leaders grew aggressive, invading Manchuria in 1931. But in Germany, a failed artist and World War I veteran named Adolf Hitler captured the imagination of a broken nation. He promised strength, unity, and revenge. In 1933, Hitler became chancellor, and soon democracy in Germany died. The Nazi regime was born. Hitler moved quickly. The Reichstag was burned. Political opponents were jailed or murdered. Jews were stripped of their rights. Propaganda filled the airwaves, and Germany rearmed. In 1936, Hitler sent troops into the Rhineland, a direct violation of the Versailles Treaty. The world did nothing. In 1938, Austria was annexed. The world again did nothing. That same year, Hitler demanded the Sudetenland, a German-speaking region of Czechoslovakia. Britain and France, desperate to avoid war, gave in. The policy of appeasement was born. In March 1939, Hitler seized the rest of Czechoslovakia. Then he turned his gaze to Poland. But this time, the world would not remain silent. On September 1st, 1939, German tanks crossed into Poland. The Blitzkrieg had begun. Lightning war, fast, brutal, overwhelming. Planes bombed from above. Tanks roared through villages. Troops advanced quickly. On September 3, Britain and France declared war on Germany. World War II had begun. Within weeks, Poland was crushed, divided between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, which had signed a secret pact with Hitler. The world stood, stunned, but Hitler was just getting started. In the spring of 1940, Germany turned west. Denmark fell in a day. Norway soon followed. Then came the Low Countries, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. France was next. Hitler bypassed the heavily fortified Maginot Line and swept through the Ardennes. The French army, once the pride of Europe, crumbled in weeks. Paris was occupied. France surrendered. Britain now stood alone. A nation surrounded by enemies, but not yet defeated. Hitler prepared to invade Britain. But first, he needed control of the skies. The Luftwaffe launched a massive aerial campaign. British cities were bombed. London burned for 57 consecutive nights. But the Royal Air Force fought back. With the help of radar, brave pilots, and a defiant population, Britain held the line. The Blitz killed thousands, but the British spirit never broke. Hitler called off the invasion. It was his first real defeat. In 1941, Hitler made a fateful decision. He betrayed the Soviet Union and launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in history. 3 million German soldiers swept into Soviet territory. Cities like Leningrad, Moscow, and Kiev were under siege. But the Soviets did not collapse. The winter came. The German army froze, starved, and stalled. Stalin rallied his people. The Eastern Front became a frozen hell, a place of unimaginable suffering. While Europe burned, war had also erupted in Asia. Japan, hungry for resources and power, had invaded China. On December 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Over 2,400 Americans were killed. The U.S. declared war. Days later, Germany declared war on the United States. The world was fully at war. America became the arsenal of democracy, supplying the Allies with weapons, men, and hope. As the war raged, the Nazis carried out their most horrific crime, the Holocaust. Millions of Jews were rounded up and deported to ghettos, labor camps, and death camps, Auschwitz, Treblinka, Dachau. Entire families were erased. Gas chambers and crematoria operated day and night. Over 6 million Jews were murdered, along with Roma, disabled people, political prisoners, and others. The full horror would only be revealed when Allied soldiers liberated the camps. In 1942, the war began to turn. In North Africa, British and American forces pushed back the Axis. In 1943, Mussolini was overthrown. In the east, the Soviets surrounded the Germans at Stalingrad. The Sixth Army was destroyed. Hitler's dream of conquering the Soviet Union was shattered. One by one, the Axis powers were pushed back. On June 6, 1944, Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy. D-Day marked the beginning of the end. France was liberated. The Allies advanced into Germany. In the east, the Red Army closed in. In April 1945, Berlin was surrounded. Hitler, hiding in a bunker, took his own life. On May 7, 1945, Germany surrendered. Victory in Europe was declared. But the war was not yet over. In the Pacific, Japan fought on. The battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa showed how fierce the resistance would be. In August 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Over 200,000 people died. On September 2, Japan formally surrendered. World War II was over. World War II cost more than 70 million lives. Cities were leveled, borders redrawn, empires collapsed. But out of the rubble came a new world, the United Nations, a global economy, and a hope for peace. We remember the war not to glorify it, but to learn from it, so that the words "never again" may truly mean something. The story of World War II is not just history. It's a warning, a reminder, a legacy. Millions died, nations rose and fell, but from the ashes came hope, unity, and the will to never repeat the past. If this video helped you understand even a small piece of that complex truth, then join us. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful journeys through history, where every story has a lesson, and every lesson a purpose. Until next time, stay curious and remember,